Just moments ago, a very busy 12-hour day wrapping up here at the New York courthouse. Both the prosecution and the defense delivering their closing statements in that historic hush money trial against former President Donald Trump with the 34 counts that are linked to falsifying business records. The defense going first for nearly 3 hours as they tried to poke holes in the testimony of Trump's former fixer, Michael Cohen, calling him a gloat, meaning the greatest liar of all time, and also attacking the Stormy Daniels testimony, calling it an attempt to embarrass Donald Trump. Then it was the prosecution's turn for just under 5 hours, slowly working through the timeline, weaving together a pretty comprehensive narrative for the jury, calling Cohen a tour guide through the physical evidence, and agreeing that while Stormy Daniels' testimony may have been messy, that she is the motive in this entire case. Let's bring in NBC's Dasha Burns for more on this. Dasha, a very long day for you as well. And it seems like the defense spent most of their time here trying to poke those holes in Michael Cohen's testimony. The prosecution, though, taking their sweet time and trying to weave basically all of these testimonies together in that narrative. What was the jury like going through this? It's a grueling amount of time for anybody, and they had to sort of pay attention to all this.
It really is. And remember, this comes after many weeks and many hours of testimony from witnesses, a lot of evidence presented as they come to this pinnacle here of closing arguments. Look, I was inside the court myself today in the overflow room for just a couple of hours, Steve, and it was a lot to take in, especially from the prosecution. Look, Steinglass is going through every piece of evidence, every bit of the timeline, making the big points, but also really digging into the minutia. I mean, going line by line on texts, emails, phone logs. That's important, of course, to remind the jury of exactly how much corroborating evidence they have in addition to the witness testimony. But it is grueling. It's exhausting. And our colleagues who were able to see the jury, because I wasn't able to do that from the overflow room, they say it's been a mix. Some people are alert, taking notes, paying attention. Others at other times throughout the day, starting to get glassy eyes, starting to rub their faces, their heads sinking down a little bit, maybe getting a little bit sleepy. It is a lot to go through. Again, the prosecution, though, really making sure to drill down into every detail. Important, but might be a lot for the jury to take in at this point in the game, Stephen.
Okay, now that this is wrapped up, Dasha, what is next here?
All right, so tomorrow, getting a slightly later start, we're being told at 10 a.m., and that's when the jury will receive instructions from Judge Merchan. That's actually a pretty crucial moment for the jury. This is when he will lay out the roadmap that they should follow, what they should and shouldn't take into account as they deliberate. It's something that the defense and prosecution really debated over last week, both trying to persuade Judge Merchan to give certain types of instructions that they believe will be more beneficial to their side of the argument. We expect the jury instructions to take about an hour or so, according to Judge Merchan, and then those 12 New Yorkers, 5 women, 7 men, will get into a room and start deliberating. They're allowed to communicate with Judge Merchan via notes if they need to ask questions, see another piece of evidence, get some clarity on the law. Otherwise, we won't hear from these folks until they have a verdict.
And Dasha, speaking about hearing from people, we've often saw pauses in this to hear either surrogates or Trump himself speak. Has that happened today, or are you expecting that to happen this evening?
We don't know if he's going to speak this evening. We'll see what he wants to do. He's not speaking. I'm being told he's not speaking this evening. But we did have quite a scene out here. The Biden campaign sent some of their surrogates, including actor Robert De Niro, and some of the first responders and Capitol police officers that were there on January 6th of 2021. We also, of course, saw some Trump surrogates, his spokespeople, his children, Eric Trump, his wife, Laura Trump, who's now the head of the RNC, Don Jr. there, also Tiffany Trump in the courtroom. So quite a contrast, a stark split screen between the two campaigns and also between what was happening out here and inside the courtroom. Stephen.
Certainly another surprising thing to see. Look up and see Robert De Niro speaking today. All right, Dasha Burns covering that breaking news for us. Dasha, thank you so much. And let's bring in NBC News legal analyst Angela Cinadella for more on this. So, Angela, Trump actually, we did hear from him, not speaking, but we did hear he posted on Truth Social just one word saying that it's boring. Was the amount of time for the prosecution took, was that boring? The prosecution, they took 4.5 hours, about the defense taking about 3 hours. Is that unusual?
So the prosecution did have a very, very long summation. And I have to say, the problem with that is that they also carry the burden of proof. And you might think, well, then that's why they want to poke every single hole and make sure that it is all perfect and wrapped up in a bow. But remember, when the jurors go into that deliberation room, if they're like, I don't even know what happened, there was just too much going on, that automatically goes to the defense because the prosecution has to prove everything. So if the prosecution lost the jurors, their audience, at any point of that long, long summation, that's a problem for the prosecution. So was it boring? It's up to the jurors to decide that, Stephen.
Yeah, and we will find that out. And speaking of each side here, how would you say they did? You know, Todd Blanche, Trump's lead lawyer, he gave those 10 points at the end to wrap things up. And then we had this long narrative from Steinglass, the prosecutor. How would you rate their performance?
So doing this whole 10-point analogy at the end is often very effective because that's what the jurors will be writing down. So they can literally then take a pen and paper and go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And they get in that deliberation room and they can bring those up. So in laying out those 10 points, in some ways, he's laying out the framework of that debate, which is impressive because, as you know, it's usually the prosecution who lays out the entire framework by bringing the charges. So the defense, in doing that preemptively, can then make the jurors go to that room and set, well, did the prosecution prolifically rebut every single one of those effectively? And again, because a burden is on the prosecution, if the prosecution failed to meet even one or two of those, it's possible then the jury would say, okay, we have to go for the defense just because of the burden of proof.
Fascinating. We also have NBC News legal analyst Danny Savalos with us for more on this. Danny, what do you make about the performance of each side here and those 10 points in closing? Having 10 different points, does that signal maybe a lot of exposure here? Is that what jurors could take away from this?
Yeah, if you're talking about the defense's 10-point list that they put up, I mean, on the one hand, I thought the list, some of those bullet points could have been combined with each other. I don't know that they were separated enough to really distinguish themselves. If you're making the argument that here's a list of things, any one of which, if you buy into, you must acquit, then really, you know, the list can be 10, it could be 20. It really depends on how you frame it. Generally speaking, you want your list to be short, though. And too often I see both prosecutors and sometimes defense attorneys make a mistake with the dreaded PowerPoint that has 10-point font and 18 bullet points with way too much language, and it's just too hard to keep track of. In this case, this was somewhere in the middle. Maybe if they're making the point that, look, if you buy into any of these points on this 10-point list, then you have to acquit. I get it. I just think it could have been framed maybe a little better. Still, the defense had some good moments. I thought, to me, for some reason, the whole point that the drop-down menu for legal services as part of the Trump software, I thought that was pretty good. On the whole, the prosecution, it's so hard to summarize a 5-hour summation. Don't know that I can try, but no surprises as the prosecution marched through all of the facts, almost in excruciating detail. But look, I can't blame them too much. It's the most important case of all of their lives. You don't want to wonder late at night when you can't sleep, if it doesn't go your way, if there's something you left out that you should have left in.
Is there any fear, though, Danny, for the jurors listening to this? Like, we've seen reports of them sinking down in their chairs, maybe not paying as much attention as they could be. Is there any fear that by going that long, they're maybe not engaged and paying attention to this?
Of course there is. That's the balancing test. Are you going to bore the jury or lose them? Or do you crowbar in every fact that you worry a jury might care about? And the meter always goes in favor of more, not less. And it goes back to that fear. You don't want to be the cautionary tale as a lawyer. You don't want to be the one that when you sit down at your office weeks from now, or you're at the local watering hole, you don't want some wise guy, other attorney to say, why didn't you leave in the part about blank? And it's that leads to 4.5, 5-hour summations. That fear and that fear alone, mark my words. And that's because it's so easy for someone like me to say, hey, you guys ought to tighten this up. Make it shorter. Don't lose the jury. Yes, I don't have any dog in the fight. I have no stake in the outcome. But when it's your case, your life, your career, a case like this makes or breaks your career, you're going to err on the side of leaving stuff in, not taking it out.
Yeah, those PowerPoints seemed very thorough. Danny, what is your take on the focus of Stormy Daniels and Michael Cohen? Is it really all for the jury? Do you think it's going to hinge on those two witnesses?
No. I mean, those are two witnesses. I think Stormy Daniels could have been a big nothing for the prosecution, but the defense made her significant by arguing senseless things like he didn't have sex with her, by going on cross-examination with Stormy Daniels for way too long about things that didn't matter, about whether or not she had dinner, whether or not she walked to the hotel. Cross-examination of Stormy Daniels should have been 5 minutes. Are you a member of the Trump bookkeeping organization? No, I'm not. Thank you very much. And that's pretty much all they needed to ask. Michael Cohen, look, no surprises. Everyone knew what Michael Cohen was going to testify to. Everyone knew he had credibility problems. I might argue that quietly the most consequential witness was David Pecker. He was their opener. He's who they started out with because they felt he was a strong witness. He had some credibility issues, but he owned them. He was a kind of scoundrel, someone that had an interesting career, something the jury had never heard about before, and he didn't want to be there. He liked Donald Trump. He didn't have Michael Cohen's motive to do harm to Donald Trump. David Pecker may end up having been the most significant witness, and we got him right at the front end.
Yeah, it seems like so long ago. It was 21 days ago, David Pecker there testifying. And Angela, I wanted to ask you, specifically using Michael Cohen, prosecution trying to say that he's more of a tour guide through this long narrative they built up. Obviously, Blanche, Trump's lawyer, saying that he's a liar and focusing on that. His credibility really playing a significant role here. What is your take on how it all played out?
So, Stephen, I think this is what it's all going to come down to, and not just a question of Michael Cohen's credibility, but a question of whether or not you believe Michael Cohen is all that is needed in order to sink or acquit. So I think the defense here has done a good job of saying that all Cohen does is Cohen's the only person who can place Donald Trump in all of this. So if you don't believe Cohen, then you have to acquit. Now, the prosecution, though, has done the opposite. And they said, even if you don't believe Cohen, he's almost irrelevant. He is just weaving us through this entire case. But you have to look at the totality of the evidence. And they are focusing on the documents. They're focusing on the signatures, on the other witnesses. So it's not only going to come down to whether or not they believe Cohen, but whether or not they believe Cohen is central to an acquittal or a conviction.
Ooh, fascinating to try to parse that. And so often, Angela, we hear about the importance of jury selection in these cases, and some people say it's won and lost in jury selection. I actually get that information from watching legal dramas, so I don't know if that's the case in real-life legal work. But we saw there was trouble at the beginning of jury selection. One person backed out because of publicity. Her name had been put out there. Does any of the drama in the jury selection, does that give us any way to read the tea leaves and what might go on when they actually get the judge's instructions and go deliberate?
I certainly don't think so, Stephen. So I think that jury selection is the most important part of all of this. But the problem is you don't really know in what way. They do their best of trying through their challenges to make sure that the jurors are unbiased or are going to be amenable to their arguments. But you never really know in what way the jurors' biases or professions or family backgrounds are going to play into this.
Yeah, a lot of unknowns there. And Danny, speaking of the judge's instructions to the jury, what are you looking for that? Is there anything in particular? What are you expecting to see?
Sure. I mean, the big points are how is he going to define fraud and the intent to defraud? But there's not going to be a lot of surprises there because there are already standard jury instructions on this issue. I guess what I'm really looking for is the extent to which they may deviate from the standard jury instructions and really how he defines things like causation. Now, Donald Trump, whether or not he caused the false entries to be made in the business records. Because if they don't reach that, that's part one of a two-part burden of proof for the prosecution. Then the decision is over relatively early. But then part two, the intent to defraud, does it also include, if there is an intent to defraud, the intent to conceal some other crime? And now, by the way, only at the very end of the prosecution's closing do we learn really what their theory is of the object crime, the crime that they need to prove in order to elevate this to a felony. I do think it's interesting that we didn't get that really until the very end of the case and 3-4 hours into the closing for the prosecution. Interesting thing, I wonder if the jury is going to be asking themselves that, why didn't we hear this more crystallized until this very moment at the very end of the case?
It's been a long slog already, and there is more to go with those deliberations. All right, Danny Savalos, Angela Cinnadella, our legal analysts, thank you both so much. All right, and now to Texas, where thousands are without power after storms slammed the state today. Hurricane-strength winds were clocked in parts of North Texas and the Houston area. Here's a snapshot of what some of the folks went through.
Power flashes just to our north.
Wow. The Dallas-Fort Worth area is under a disaster declaration tonight with electricity out across the region. But statewide right now, we're talking that's nearly 1 million people without power. And officials say that could last for days. NBC's Adrian Broaddus is in Dallas with more. Adrian, my sister actually lives south of Dallas, heard the alarms and took shelter. Thankfully, nothing happened where she is, but not everyone was that lucky. What are you seeing on the ground there?
Yeah, some people like your sister were fortunate enough to escape serious injuries. We are in a neighborhood here in Dallas where you can see the aftermath. They have been cleaning up throughout the day, so this is what's left in this area. You see scattered tree limbs a few blocks down. One of the trees was uprooted at its root. Another tree split at its trunk. On the other side of this fence, you'll notice pieces of insulation scattered across this parking lot. These pieces were ripped from the building that is just on the other side of the fence. And not far away from here, folks in a nearby neighborhood are preparing to clean up. Listen in.
As you can see, that old tree back there was uprooted from the bottom. I'm guessing by lightning or whatever the situation may be. As you can see, it kind of takes its uproot through the entire house. It's a really big tree. But so yeah, that's the first steps are gonna be getting everything removed. And really just trying to get it to handle it the best way we can.
From neighbors to business owners, right now you are looking at what is left of a roof of this hardware construction store. I spoke with the owner of this business a short time ago, and he said when he showed up just before 6 a.m. this morning, he was unable to get out of his vehicle because the wind was so strong. We know the wind gusts were up to 77 miles per hour here. He says when he got out of the car, that is when he saw parts of the roof had been ripped off. Inside of the building, there's puddles of water, and he says the cleanup could take days. And you talked about that disaster declaration. We're talking about thousands of customers who will be without power for days, and this could cause a significant problem, especially for those who have health challenges. You're talking about folks who may have diabetes. They may need to store their medication in the refrigerator. So the hope is that the cleanup efforts will go smoothly. Back to you now.
Wow, and my sister actually just texted me, Adrian, and said a tree fell and crushed a fence in her backyard. So I guess the damage did not escape her as well. Thank you so much for that report, Adrian Broaddus. Let's bring in NBC News meteorologist Bill Cairns for more. So, Bill, what's the situation out there tonight and heading into tomorrow?
It's not the tornado threat that we had over the holiday week, where we saw all the destruction, just, the horrific scenes. Now we're more concerned with large hail, which can do a ton of damage, and some damaging winds. And we've had over 1 million people without power throughout the day today in Texas because of high winds from thunderstorms that started this morning in Dallas and made their way all the way down to Houston and off the Gulf Coast. So that was round one. Round two is now developing out here in West Texas. This is a large hail threat. Isolated tornado possible, not a lot of them, and wind damage threat. And so this tornado watch that includes the Lubbock areas until about 9 p.m. Central Time. The thunderstorm watches will continue till about 9 or 10. So the Lubbock area is right here. We've been watching this really powerful supercell thunderstorm out to the west. Again, large hail, maybe even as big as baseball-size hail with this, just to the north of Levelland. We'll have to see if that holds together and heads for the Lubbock area. But when you see this bright pink and the white and magenta in there, that's when you know you're talking about hail that can, smashed, windshields, that type of hail. So a lot of people are hiding their vehicles right now in this area. Tomorrow we get a break. Much of Texas is going to be okay. We'll have isolated severe storms in the Dakotas heading into areas of Colorado. And then by the time we get to Thursday, that severe weather threat does return into areas of Texas, mostly North Texas and just outside of Fort Worth to Wichita Falls, Abilene included in this too. Isolated tornadoes, but more large hail and wind damage threat. And of course, when we get storms all the time in the same spots, we're going to get flood damage. and we have the potential for moderate flood damage the rest of today into tonight in the overnight hours as the storms I just showed you head for the same areas that had a significant flooding earlier this morning. So another 1 to 2 inches doesn't sound like a lot of rain, but if it's in the same spots that got it this morning, that's where we could have problems in the middle of night once again.
Yeah, people don't want to hear about that. But for tornadoes, it's not just Texas. Like over the weekend, we saw damage left behind in more than, what was it, a dozen states? Is this unusual? It seems like this is the time of year for it.
It's unusual to have it this widespread. May is the #1 tornado month, so there's no secret to that. But, you know, when we take a look, we colored in every state in red that had tornado reports over the holiday weekend, and there's not many we left out. We're now up to 15 states, so from Pennsylvania all the way through areas of Alabama, Texas, back up into Kansas. You could obviously see where the worst ones were, north of the Dallas area with those fatalities, in southern Missouri, northern Arkansas, and a bunch right around western Kentucky. So those were the areas that have been hit the hardest out there. But, you know, May is our #1 tornado month. We'll all be happy when this is over. But June is the third most active for tornadoes. So it's not like we're not going to do this again.
Oof, and hurricane season, Bo.
I don't want to talk about that. No.
Time. That's right. All right. Bill Cairns, thanks so much. All right, now to an American tourist who is sentenced to time served and a $9,000 fine instead of 12 years in prison in Turks and Caicos. 31-year-old Tyler Wenrich was arrested about a month ago for having bullets in his luggage as he tried to reboard a cruise ship. He had earlier pleaded guilty to possession of that ammunition. Despite the ordeal, Wenrich says he's just grateful to go home and see his family.
I feel very just relieved. The weight has been lifted off my shoulders and my wife, and I'm glad that I get to go home and be with my son again.
Let's bring in NBC News correspondent Gadi Venegas with more.
Today's sentencing is good news for other Americans who have also been found with ammunition in Turks and Caicos. So Tyler Wenrich today faced a judge who sentenced him to 3 weeks in prison, time already served since he was arrested back in April, as well as a $9,000 fine. This is the best case scenario for the American, the second to be sentenced to minimum time in prison and a fine. This comes after 3 governors from the U.S., the governor of Oklahoma, Virginia, and Pennsylvania, all wrote a letter earlier in May to authorities in Turks and Caicos asking them to reconsider charges against Americans who were found in possession of ammunition inside that country. The governors indicating that the Americans did not intend to bring that ammunition, and they, of course, did not know the law. The judges, it seems, are making exceptions with these Americans. Today, the judge indicated after making his decision that enforcing the mandatory minimum that exists in that country for 12 years in prison of someone found in possession of ammunition, he felt like if he enforced that, in his words, that would have been arbitrary and disproportionate and would not have served the public interest. Now, of course, this is something that is going to help the other Americans. There's 3 other Americans that have been found in possession of ammunition that are still waiting for their legal process to continue. And of course, also for all Americans traveling to that country to keep in mind that in Turks and Caicos, anyone found in possession of a weapon, a firearm, or ammunition can face a minimum sentence of 12 years in prison. Back to you.
Some serious time. All right, Gadi Venegas, thank you. And don't go anywhere. We're just getting started tonight. Up next, Israeli forces pushed farther into Rafah today, killing more than 20 people. What this latest move could mean for the war. Plus, an NBC News exclusive, how a new immigration policy could help stop migrants on the terror watch list from coming into the U.S. And big changes over at OpenAI coming less than a week after an updated version of ChatGPT sounded very similar to actress Scarlett Johansson. Details on that coming up later this hour in the Future of Everything. So stay tuned. Welcome back. Tensions in the Middle East are hitting a fever pitch. More from the ground there in just a moment. But first, let's take a quick look around the world. Thousands are now missing in Papua New Guinea. That mudslide there wiped out an entire village in the remote South Pacific nation. People are searching through rubble, looking for any signs of life. The UN says only 9 bodies have been recovered so far. And at least 7 people are dead in the Philippines as a typhoon swept through that country. Storm warnings were lifted today, but conditions there, they were rough over the last few days. Officials say at least 6 people drowned in floodwaters, while others were hit by falling trees in some of the hardest hit areas. In Hong Kong, 6 people have been arrested on sedition charges related to a new security law in that country. The suspects have been accused of using a Facebook page to advocate hatred against the Chinese government. China took control of the British colony in 1997 and has recently been cracking down with strict laws. Pope Francis is apologizing after he was quoted using a vulgar Italian term for gay men. It happened during a talk he had about the ban on gay priests. The comments were made behind closed doors to a group of Italian bishops. The Vatican says Pope Francis never intended to offend or to express himself in homophobic terms. Well, Israeli forces have finally reached the center of Rafah. That's according to our team on the ground in Gaza. Palestinians there are sifting through charred tents and ash after an airstrike killed 45 people on Sunday and set a refugee camp on fire. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu calling that, quote, a tragic incident. NBC News international correspondent Raf Sanchez has more.
Tonight, Palestinian families fleeing Rafah any way they can as an NBC News crew saw Israeli forces pushing into the heart of the city for the first time. But the White House says it hasn't seen evidence of Israel crossing President Biden's red lines.
We still don't want to see the Israelis, as we say, smash into Rafah with large units, and we still believe that. And we haven't seen that at this point.
While just outside the city, at least 21 people killed in an Israeli strike on tents along the coast, according to the health ministry in Hamas-run Gaza. The IDF denying they attacked a safe zone. It comes just 2 days after an Israeli airstrike ignited this firestorm at a different camp, killing dozens of civilians. Facing international criticism, the IDF tonight revealing results of a preliminary investigation, saying it used small bombs to target 2 Hamas commanders, but that a secondary explosion started the enormous fire.
Our munition alone could not have ignited a fire of this size.
The IDF says hidden Hamas weapons might have caused the blast, but offered no firm evidence. An Israeli official earlier said a gas tank could have sparked the flames. Meanwhile, NBC News has learned the U.S. military has been forced to halt aid deliveries into Gaza by sea after 3 officials said bad weather damaged its temporary pier. This video showing part of the causeway floating away from the beach. It's the latest setback for the American aid effort after military boats washed up on the coasts of Israel and Gaza over the weekend, while a U.S. service member remains in critical condition after an accident on the pier last week.
Now, that temporary pier had only been operational for 2 weeks, and the Pentagon says it'll take another week to repair. That's a major blow to the humanitarian effort in Gaza at a time when the Rafah crossing, the main lifeline for food and aid from Egypt, remains closed.
All right, Raf Sanchez, thanks so much. All right, any new parents out there, you may want to listen up to this one. The National Institutes of Health dropped a new study today that gives some crucial advice to preventing peanut allergies in kids. They found that if people who regularly fed kids peanut products, from infancy to about the age of 5, that it reduced the rate of peanut allergies by up to 71%. Now, that is huge because peanut allergies are one of the 9 most common allergies in the U.S., affecting 1 to 2% of the entire population. So let's bring in NBC News medical fellow Dr. Akshay Sayal with more on this. So, Doc, walk us through this study. What should parents know if they want to try this out? So how should they go about giving their kids peanut products? Maybe infancy? That seems a little young.
Exciting news here, Stephen, and I'm excited, on behalf of myself, who's also a peanut lover, excited for all the people, there's some modeling data, Stephen, just off the top here from the NIH that can, it shows that this could potentially prevent tens of thousands of peanut allergies, so more and more people can enjoy them. And so what did this study find? And so, Stephen, this is a long-going study. It's a few years old now. That's been going on for some time, where they took infants about age of 4 to 10 months. They started introducing peanut products to them, and they said, if we were to give this early, could we prevent them from developing allergies in the future? And they followed them for some time, and then that's what today's news is. They followed them up until 12 years old, and they found that, if you do introduce peanuts at an early age, you can prevent peanut allergies. You can see on your screen there by about 71%. Wow. And modeling data from the NIH, Stephen, again, showing tens of thousands of people could potentially be enjoying peanuts should this get adopted in a wider practice.
Yeah, I know many families, many schools don't allow peanut products at all just because of how dangerous and how prevalent these allergies actually are. So if you are a parent who wants to introduce peanut products to your child at a young age, that can be pretty scary. You know, I've got nieces and nephews who have had some bad encounters with nut allergies before. Is it a good idea to maybe do that outside of a doctor's office, maybe outside of an ER? Is that something you could think about doing if you're worried about it?
It's daunting, right? You don't want to give your child potentially something that they're allergic to and that could cause something like anaphylaxis. So I get why some people might be scared about that. So, Stephen, there's some guidelines on this. So, you know, first of all, if your child is a known egg allergy, it's something they're already allergic to, you know, you would definitely want to talk to your pediatrician about this. If they have eczema, which is a sort of skin rash that can appear in different parts of the body, if they have that, or even if they have a lot of people in their family who have that, you want to be more careful. So ask your doctor if they have any of those above things. But, you know, if both of those are negative, A, you can still ask your doctor, but B, the guidelines say it may be okay to introduce peanut products. And what does that look like? You know, you want to wait until about 4 to 10 months of age because peanuts are a choking hazard, and you want to use a soft paste, about the texture of baby formula, for example. And if you introduce that slowly, about a couple times a week, you can start maybe at a pea size and go double that until you get to about 2 teaspoons. And, you know, if you do that, the likelihood is your child will be less likely to be allergic to peanuts.
Wow, it might be counterintuitive, but it actually seems like it could be an important turning point maybe for a lot of people. Could this method of introducing something early on, could that be used for other allergies as well?
It's a shifting thinking, right? For the longest time, we thought avoid peanuts, especially until kids get older. Maybe they won't be allergic. But, you know, this study is definitely pointing towards the opposite direction. And, Stephen, the other thing people are looking at is eggs. If we introduce eggs at an early age, can we prevent egg allergies from forming? But, you know, right now we're not there yet. The evidence doesn't really support a change in practice. We don't have guidelines for introducing eggs at a young age, but that is the next frontier. And hopefully from that, you know, we can go to milk, maybe fish, sesame, wheat, get people enjoying things that they may be missing out on otherwise.
Fascinating. When I was little, I used to dip my fingers in the peanut butter jar and eat it and get yelled at when my mom would see little, like, finger marks in the peanut.
Yeah,
so peanut butter is very good. The more people that can eat it, the better. Dr. Akshay Sayal, thanks so much for breaking that down for us.
Anytime.
All right, coming up, a controversy in Argentina. Why 3 players from the women's soccer team just quit. We've got those details. But first, you got to see this. This man broke into a UK pub and stole a cash register, but I guess he wanted to celebrate that theft with a bottle of Prosecco afterwards. The owner says he also enjoyed couscous, a prawn, and a piece of cake. Police are still trying to track that thief down. He wasn't in any hurry. Maybe they just have to follow those crumbs. I think that was a Hansel and Gretel joke in there. I didn't write that, but I liked it. We'll be right back. Welcome back. An NBC News exclusive report on the newest policies to keep migrants on the terror watch list out of the U.S. But first, here are some other headlines we're watching tonight. Security camera footage shows the moment a massive explosion rocked Youngstown, Ohio just a few hours ago. First responders had to pull people out of that destruction, and there are at least 7 people injured, including one critically. Local officials say an underground gas explosion may have been the cause. A Massachusetts man was arraigned this morning on multiple charges in 2 stabbings over the weekend. They left 6 people hurt, and the first happened at a movie theater. Police say Jared Ravisa went in without paying and then stabbed 4 young girls. Just an hour later, he then went to a McDonald's where police say he stabbed 2 more people. Investigators are also looking into whether he's connected to a murder in Connecticut as well. And now police say they think he's also connected to a murder investigation in Connecticut. David DePape, the man convicted of attacking Nancy Pelosi's husband, was resentenced to 30 years in prison today, the same sentence he received a little over a week ago. That sentencing hearing was reopened after the judge realized she didn't give DePape a chance to speak before being sentenced, which is required by law. Today, DePape apologized and said he should have left once he saw the former speaker wasn't home. DePape will serve the 30 years minus the 19 months he has already served. Earlier today, Ohio lawmakers got together for a special session to make sure President Joe Biden ends up on the state's ballot in November. Ohio law says that the presidential candidates have to be confirmed 90 days before the general election, which would be August 7th. But Biden won't be the official nominee until after the DNC convenes, and that happens on August 19th. The new legislation would move the deadline to after that convention. Philanthropist Melinda French Gates says that she's donating $1 billion over the next 2 years toward women and family rights across the globe. She made that announcement in a New York Times op-ed saying her decision comes as political violence against women is on the rise. And back to our top story this hour. Closing arguments are now done in former President Trump's criminal hush money trial. That's after a marathon day that summed up 6 weeks of testimony, with the prosecution delivering closing arguments for more than 5 hours. Looking ahead to tomorrow, the court will be back in session at 10 a.m., at which point the judge will give jury instructions for about an hour. After that, the deliberations will start. At this point, there's no way to know if we'll get a verdict tomorrow or later this week, but we, of course, will keep you updated on the latest information just as soon as we have it. Well, tonight, an update to immigration policy that could help prevent migrants on the terror watch list from being released to the U.S. Right now, immigration judges don't get access to classified information about specific migrants, even if those migrants are known to have ties to terrorism or pose a threat to public safety. That's because of a 20-year-old directive from DHS, which says classified information could only be used in immigration proceedings as a last resort. Now, the Biden administration is trying to close that loophole and provide classified information to immigration judges and asylum officers. NBC News Homeland Security correspondent Julia Ainsley has more on this.
Stephen, we're learning more details tonight about a new memo from the Department of Homeland Security that instructs asylum officers and the lawyers who bring immigrants to immigration court to be able to access and share more classified information. Previously, under a 2004 memo, they were only supposed to have access to classified information and be able to share classified information about an immigrant as a last resort. But now they are able to get that more easily, and this follows, Stephen, NBC News reporting about a man named Mohammed Harwin who was on the terror watch list, but an immigration judge ordered him to be released on bond. That's because that judge didn't know he was on the terror watch list. And as NBC previously reported in April, the lawyers in that case withheld some information because they thought if they shared information that would tie Harwin to terrorism, show that he was on the terror watch list, that would be violating the previous policy not to share classified information and to only share it as a last resort. So instead, they argued he was a flight risk. They never mentioned that he was a threat to national security. They never mentioned he was on the terrorism watch list. And as a result, Harwin was released on bond and lived freely in the United States. That is until just hours after our NBC News report, when he was arrested again by ICE. Now, under this new memo, someone like Harwin would come to court, and those very same prosecutors who were prosecuting his case before an immigration judge would be able to get access and more freely show this judge the information that would tie him to the terror watch list. Now, it's not so easy as just being able to pull out a folder because, as you know, classified information is very tightly held and it has to be handled in certain ways. Only people with clearances can see it, and in order to even print a classified document, you have to do it in a secure setting on a secure printer. So now DHS is under the new task of having to get more people security clearances. This could be more clearances for immigration judges, more lawyers, more asylum officers, and physically building more places, buildings along the border and throughout the country where they can have what they call SCIFs, which are buildings where classified information can be printed and shared, talked about, passed around. This is no easy feat, but DHS is now assessing exactly how they're going to get up to speed in order to do this, because it's really surprising to believe, considering DHS was born after 9/11 to be able to prevent terrorists from entering the country or committing another crime like September 11th. And instead, it's taken until now for DHS to actually be able to figure out how to present information that could tie an immigrant to terrorism easily. In the past, they had to go to the Department of Homeland Security Secretary himself or herself in order to get that permission. Now they only need to go to the head of their component, like ICE or USCIS or asylum officers, in order to get that permission. So it really could have a big change. And DHS says that this is the result of a multi-year process to review how they should handle immigrants crossing the border who may pose a threat to national security, especially considering that so many more migrants now are not just coming from countries we've seen in the past, like El Salvador, Guatemala, Honduras, but are actually coming from across the world, which could increase the chances that they could be a terror threat. So a lot more we're learning as this new memo rolls out, and we'll stay on top of it for you. Stephen?
Certainly more to come. Julia Ainsley, thanks so much. And a big shakeup for the Argentinian football fans. 3 starters on the national women's team have quit. Goalkeeper Lorena Oliveros, defender Julieta Cruz, and midfielder Lorena Benitez say they aren't being paid for 2 upcoming games, and they say they faced poor working conditions during practice, like being fed just a ham sandwich and a banana, which they say is just not enough to sustain professional athletes. NBC News correspondent Maura Barrett has more.
The Argentinian women's team was granted professional status in 2019, and at the time, the league's president emphasized that women's contracts would mirror that of the men's. But this is not seeming to be how it's playing out. Women very frustrated, saying that they feel humiliated now based on, A, their pay, but also the types of conditions that they're facing at practices, being handed ham and cheese sandwiches and bananas, and not being supplemented right in terms of being prepared to play a game. Now, I should note that there's overall dissatisfaction with the league's president, both on the men and women's side, though the focus is on the women's right now. Fans speculating that he's putting profit over performance, and so that's something to be aware of. But as we're talking about these women that stepped down off the national team, these were some of the league's, the team's starting regular starters. And so this was Lorena Oliveros, one of the goalkeepers, Julieta Cruz, a defender, and Lorena Benitez, who's a midfielder. And again, they said that they just reached a point in which they're tired of the injustices, of not feeling valued or feeling heard. Oliveros wrote on social media that she has a broken heart and sees thousands of her dreams disappearing little by little. Now, all of this comes just after last year, the country's best female player, Estefania Benini, also stopped playing for the national team, stepping down, citing those gender inequities. And so she posted in support of her 3 former teammates on social media today, writing, "Matter of time, thank you for daring to speak. We want the real growth of women's football. We want to be at the height of the potential." Now, this isn't the first time that the Argentinian women's team has faced blowback. They went on strike actually in 2017 over pay inequity and the fact that the funds weren't even covering some of their expenses. And so we'll have to see how the rest of this plays out and what reaction happens on the ground in Argentina. Now, we also reached out to the Argentinian Football Association and have not heard back in terms of any reaction or comment. Back to you.
Maura Barrett, thanks so much. Still to come tonight, we're learning more about the shocking murder of General Hospital star Johnny Wachter. That's just ahead, so stay tuned. Welcome back. Here are some of the stories we're following from out west. An Idaho drag performer has been awarded more than $1 million in a defamation case against a conservative blogger. Eric Posey says he was falsely accused of exposing himself to a crowd that included minors at a Pride event in 2022. But a jury found that the blogger posted an edited video of his performance that had a spot blurred on it, implying some type of exposure there, which never actually took place. That video led to death threats and harassment for Posey. And staying in Idaho, a man hunting turkey was hurt when a wild moose attacked him. The Idaho Department of Fish and Game says the man startled the female moose, which was with its 2 twin calves. That's when it charged at him. The man fired 2 warning shots, but he was kicked to the ground. He was able to get off a 3rd shot at the moose and hit the moose before it ran away. And academic workers in UCLA and UC Davis walked off the job today. They're on strike over the treatment at recent pro-Palestinian protests, saying their rights were violated during encampment crackdowns. Now, this comes as workers at UC Santa Cruz began their rolling strikes last week. New details emerging in the killing of General Hospital star John Wachter. Witness statements say the actor had finished a shift as a bartender and walked to his vehicle early Saturday, where he was confronted by 3 suspects. Now, they had reportedly put his car up on a jack, and they shot Wachter with, quote, "no provocation." Let's bring in NBC News correspondent Morgan Chesky. So, Morgan, what are police saying now about the motive for this and why they may have shot him?
LAPD still says this is very much an active investigation, Stephen, but those two words in this statement that the department released today say so much, and that's without provocation, detailing how that suspect opened fire on this 37-year-old soap opera star after he left that late night shift in downtown Los Angeles and was just going with a coworker to his vehicle. Now, we have learned from his family that that car was a Toyota Prius. We'll talk a little bit more about that in a second, but as it stands, these circumstances played out in just a few seconds here, Stephen. And according to LAPD, there were 3 individuals, they're not saying male or female, at this vehicle. And one of them is the one who fired that fatal shot. We know despite paramedics being there within minutes, Stephen, they were not able to resuscitate Johnny Wachter at a nearby hospital, and he was later pronounced dead. The search is very much on for these 3 individuals. Authorities not saying much else in what was released in this statement other than they were all wearing dark clothing and seen leaving north on Hope Street in a dark-colored sedan. Stephen?
Yeah, Morgan, and we know since the pandemic, we've seen many of these thefts, specifically of catalytic converters from vehicles. Of course, they need to get under the vehicle in order to take those catalytic converters. L.A. County, in particular, has been a hotbed. In 2022, they reported 19,000 of these thefts. That same year, the DOJ actually took down a whole catalytic converter theft ring. The thinking here is that could be what these thieves were after. So, Morgan, what more do we know about this problem?
Yeah, well, LAPD explicitly said that these thieves were after the catalytic converter on Johnny's vehicle, which family members tell us was a Toyota Prius. And this is an important note here, Stephen, because the converter on a hybrid Prius will fetch significantly more, up to 10 times more on the black market than a catalytic converter from, say, a Ford F-150. That would bring about $100 or so, whereas a Prius catalytic converter, because of the precious metals inside it, could fetch upwards of $1,000 or even more. Those statistics nationally of catalytic converter thefts peaked about, as you mentioned, in 2022. They have taken a bit of a dip, but it's still a significant problem, particularly here in California, which has actually passed legislation not trying to crack down on just the theft of the converters, but also tried to hamper any resale on the black market as well. Stephen?
And Morgan, you mentioned Wachter's family. Have they said anything else about this killing?
Hi, I did have a chance to speak to his mother, Scarlett, and 2 brothers, Lance and Grant. Truly an emotional interview from them, especially when they realized from police that this all stemmed from somebody trying to get a catalytic converter. His mother saying that whoever did this is evil. However, they did credit LAPD detectives for being incredibly thorough in this ongoing process. They say they remember Johnny for being a bright soul, a positive force whenever he would enter a room, saying you could absolutely feel his presence. His mother, Scarlett, telling me that as tough as his loss has been, she will watch clips of him on General Hospital, and that will bring her a little bit of peace despite this moment that is still an incredibly dark time for this family here. Stephen?
Yeah, so heartbroken for that family trying to make sense of this. Morgan Chesky, thank you so much. Well, a theater in Massachusetts is apologizing after a screening of Jaws went, well, let's just say off the rails. That happened after actor Richard Dreyfuss went on a rant that many are calling offensive to women, LGBTQ+ people, and more. NBC News entertainment reporter Chloe Malas has more on why some people even walked out in the middle of that event.
Richard Dreyfuss coming under fire for these comments that he made at a Jaws screening. When he was asked about the Me Too movement, that's when things really went off the rails. I spoke to an individual who was in the audience. Their name is Sarah Hogg. Sarah told me in an interview that people started walking out when he started saying that the trans community, that people who are the parents of trans children, that they are the problem, that you really can't believe anybody or trust anyone that would allow a child to change their gender. Sarah says that the conversation just went downhill after that.
Many people walked out, including myself and my partner. Numerous other patrons who were at the Cabot also found it unacceptable. There were scores of people filing down the stairs and out onto the sidewalk.
Sarah was telling me that Beverly, it's a small community close to Salem, Massachusetts, and they're known for just being this wonderful, inclusive community, and that this particular theater, which has since come out and put out a very lengthy apology, was truly appalled. They put out an email to their members and to the individuals who went saying that they are deeply sorry, that they are troubled, that had they known that the conversation was going to go in this direction, that they would not have allowed this conversation to happen in the first place. Again, you know, Richard Dreyfuss up there allegedly also criticizing his co-star Barbara Streisand, saying that women should be submissive. Now, all of this was not caught on camera. There were only little bits and parts of him at one point wearing a dress and coming out on the stage to Taylor Swift's Love Story. Again, a very kind of out there, bizarre event. But NBC News, we've reached out to Richard Dreyfuss for comment. We haven't yet heard back. And again, these comments not captured on video, but maybe at some point, because there were hundreds of guests in the audience, caught something that they will share. Back to you.
Surprising stuff. All right, Chloe, thank you. Well, before we go, it's time for the future of everything. When it comes to artificial intelligence, it's like the Wild West out there, pretty much. People just making up their own rules as they go. But maybe for not much longer. The company behind ChatGPT just created an oversight team. So how will this work? That's coming up next. So stay tuned. Weeks after OpenAI dissolved an oversight board focusing on the long-term risks of artificial intelligence, it's now created a new board to focus on what the company calls critical safety and security decisions for OpenAI projects and operations. All of this coming after the company has landed in some hot water over using a voice extremely similar to Scarlett Johansson's for their new ChatGPT voice, which executives are denying. Let's bring in NBC News business and data correspondent Brian Chung to break down what all of this means. So, Brian, OpenAI says this new committee is specifically going to focus on breakthroughs in artificial general intelligence, or AGI. So how is that different from AI as we know it?
Yeah, so before we talk about kind of what's going on with the board, we have to talk first about the technology that they want to oversee with the formation of that board. So basically right now we have artificial intelligence, but what the OpenAI is saying is that they're basically crossing the fulcrum into artificial general intelligence, AGI. The difference is not just G. The idea is that AI right now, which you kind of ask to do specific tasks, so help drive a car for me or help me figure out how many legs an elephant has. Well, artificial general intelligence will have more adaptive reasoning and kind of put the pieces together, do more advanced things, essentially become something closer to the human brain. That's what OpenAI says they're close to developing. That's the reason why they want to convene this board.
People are going to get tired of the Terminator references, but it sounds like it's a step closer to Skynet,
basically,
is what I'm hearing.
Yeah.
Okay. So this oversight board, there's a new one that's been created. The old one was dissolved. What's the difference here between these boards?
Well, the difference is largely just the personnel that's on them right now. This board is going to include, obviously, OpenAI CEO Sam Altman, who you remember was part of that musical chairs where he got ousted for a brief moment and then came back. But it's also going to include people like those you see on the screen. Brett Taylor, who is the former CEO over at Salesforce. Nicole Seligman, who is the former general counsel over at Sony. So these are hard hitters, big players in the tech space, but it's notably not going to include the former chief technology officer or the chief scientist, rather. That was Ilya Sutskever, and he was famously kind of behind the creation of OpenAI itself, but just this month left the company. Again, maybe that owed a little bit to that public spat between Sam Altman and the board itself. But again, this board, a different cast of characters than the original formation of it.
Certainly a lot of drama behind the scenes there. But speaking more broadly, not from the private sector, but is there any chance we could see maybe some federal regulations for AI or AGI or Skynet?
Yeah, well, one of the kind of criticisms of this board is that, okay, well, if you have someone developing, this AGI or Skynet in the case, do you want the people that are creating it to be the ones policing it? Because again, what this board is going to do, they're going to do a 90-day review, then they're going to have the board look over the findings that they have, and then they will release publicly some of the recommendations there. But some people argue, okay, well, shouldn't we have more regulation regulations coming from outside the company that's creating this technology, that's where Congress could potentially step in. But, you know, Stephen, we know how Congress works. They move very slowly. They move very inefficiently, specifically on some of these quick adapting technologies. So whether or not they can get to the punch fast, that remains an open question.
It reminds me of some hearings I've seen where Congress people maybe called TikTok tic-tac. So
they don't even know what the technology is.
Right, yeah,
so there's kind of the know-how that they have to build up first before figuring out what is the proper way to regulate it.
Yeah, a huge mountain to climb on that front. All right, Brian Chung, thanks for breaking it all down for us. All right, and that is going to do it for us tonight. I'm Stephen Romo. We'll see you tomorrow, but until then, stay tuned now.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.